Our wicked stepmother just had our dog put to sleep because it was inconvenient. Hi, I'm Aaron, aka Visionaaron, and today we're traveling to the magical land of Oz. I have the Emerald City all around me in my own humble abode, and I'm going to share some of my experiences specifically related to the Wizard of Oz and the land of Oz. I was part of the world of Oz decades before Wicked even came out, and I'm going to tell you how. I have 3 interesting stories to tell you that relate to Oz. But one of them is a little bit racy, so I don't know if you can handle it. Can you handle this? My history with the wonderful world of Oz goes back decades. Maybe not to when the film came out because I wasn't alive yet. I'm not that old, but I was obsessed with all of the books and the whole world of Oz and Fantasyland that they created that would then get me kind of hooked and lead me into, it's kind of like the gateway drug basically, into other books of fantasy and science fiction later on in life. I credit the movie and the books situated in the land of Oz for helping me do that. A lot of people don't know that there's a whole world of books out there and even some other media and TV and movie projects that came out situated in the land of Oz beyond the original Wizard of Oz movie and the musical and now movie Wicked. Would you believe that the old Wizard of Oz books actually included an address for you to sign up for the Wizard of Oz fan club? And little preteen me, like I must have been maybe 11 or 12, I sent off a letter. I think I had to put some money in it or something. This is the olden days, and this was literally the olden days. This was the 80s. And I sent it off, and then they sent me back some kind of confirmation letter that I was part of the Wizard of Oz fan club, and with some little papers that I kept in my scrapbook because it was part of my identity at the time, I guess. And yeah, I was officially part of the Wizard of Oz fan club as a child. And I felt connected from all the weirdness and magical animated objects and creatures that could talk in the land of Oz, where it seemed like there were more possibilities for people who were different and weird, which I feel like I was still coming into some of my weirdness, but behaviorally I was definitely weird, and I think even more so as a child. My father actually told me, I remember he had sent me to psychological visits and things like that, but he only told me as an adult that they actually asked him to put me on the ADHD drug Ritalin, which was the drug they used at the time, and we just called it ADD. And I didn't know that until I was an adult, and he told me. But he decided he didn't want to do it because he didn't want me getting kind of hooked on this idea of regularly taking medicines unless they were absolutely necessary. And my dad was a science teacher and earlier a nuclear engineer. I had some really weird behaviors. For example, when I went off to summer camp, I went to this YMCA summer camp, Arbolado, in California, and it was for 2 weeks. I brought all of my collection of Oz books in this little satchel. Like, I made as many of them fit in there as possible, even though I wouldn't even have enough time to read them with all the activities and things like that. But they were like my security blanket, like a little kid that won't leave their stuffed animal or blanket or something. I literally wanted to have my Wizard of Oz books with me everywhere I went, even at summer camp. And it extended into some kind of issues at camp, because there was one night when we were supposed to sleep outside of the cabin. Inside the cabin, we all had bunk beds, and we had 2 camp counselors who were older than us, like teenagers or something. And there was one night when we had to go hike somewhere, seemed far away at the time, and sleep outside at night in sleeping bags. But I didn't want to go, and I refused to go.
And I said, I'm just going to stay in the cabin and read my books. And
I didn't want to go, even though I realized, like, you have to kind of do all those activities and stuff when you're a kid. You just have to kind of go with everybody else. They can't just leave me by myself. But I was sort of protesting, and I was like,
well, I'm going to bring all of my books with me.
Literally on an uphill mountain hike, bringing a satchel full of heavy books, Wizard of Oz books that I couldn't read in one night. It makes no sense now. And I didn't want to bring my sleeping bag because I was kind of in this protest mode. And so I just brought like a towel, and I remember I had this Spider-Man towel, and I thought, well, I'm just going to put that on the ground and I'm going to sleep with the Spider-Man towel. I thought I was going to show them somehow by doing these weird things. And it actually turned out to have a strange result, let's say, because of course you're in the mountains, it gets cold at night, and after we had made dinner on the fire and we made roasted marshmallows and made s'mores and stuff like that, the 2 fit teenage counselors decided to help me out because they didn't want me just like sleeping there in like just getting dew on me with sleeping on a towel. And so they opened up their sleeping bags and put one below and then one on top, kind of like a s'more, in fact, except for they made me the marshmallow. They slept on either side of me and put little me in the middle, and so that I could keep warm. And that was very kind of them, but it was kind of weird because I was, you know, kind of just hitting puberty and had hormones raging and stuff like that. So basically I became a human s'more as even almost like a reward for my weird behavior with the obsession with the Oz books. So you never know what prizes life is going to give you when you act weird. You get weird prizes. If you've made it this far, it means there's something wrong with you because you like my weirdness and you get me somehow, even though very few people on this planet do. You're in the right place if you're here and you enjoy me. So I would love it if you would like and subscribe, as I'm trying to grow this channel, and I would like to share my weirdness with more people, and you can help me do that by a little bit of liking and give me a subscription. Come on, I worked hard for it. My nieces ended up even coming to stay with me, and so they've seen this sort of emerald city that I've created in my own house. Back in the 2000s, I was visiting Northern California, and I was going to be seeing some of my sisters and my nieces and nephews, and my sisters had organized tickets to go to see the musical Wicked in San Francisco with two of my little nieces who were still young girls at the time. Now they're fully grown adults and married and stuff like that, but back then they were daughters of conservative Mormons, and I was their uncle. But it was different times back then. I was still more extroverted and eccentric than most people of the time, but still I would do things that maybe would be considered a bit shocking and stuff. I wasn't doing it for the gram or anything. I just did these things for being creative. And sometimes you can teach little life lessons by just being yourself and being weird, you know? So I thought this was an opportunity, but it involved a dress and green makeup. Because what kind of uncle would I be if I didn't turn out a look and go a little extra? I actually had to go to a thrift shop, look for something that I could make fit me, and I found this amazing black velvet dress with mutton sleeves and even this little kind of like window with some black lace that was going to be perfect. But because with these platform heels, I was probably like 7 feet tall, I actually had to find some fabric that I could sew to the base of it so that it could elongate it, some black fabric, and that would fit me with my platform heels. And man, do I wish I could defy gravity or have a broom or something when I had to go up and down stairs in that thing. But instead, we decided to take the BART, which is the public transportation train in the Bay Area from the East Bay. And of course, it was an experience for my family. My sister and my mom and two of my nieces were with me, for them to see the way that people reacted to me on the train. And then once we went under the bay and we entered the magical world of San Francisco, they could really see the difference in the way that people responded to me. And as we got closer to the theater, then more and more people were like, oh my gosh, can I take a picture with you? And then when we went into the theater, people were like, oh, can I take a picture with you? And for me, it was a moment and a chance to show my nieces a different world where being creative and artistic and expressive is actually applauded and appreciated, even though it could seem weird when you're just in some suburban context in America, you know? And then of course we loved the musical, such a wonderful experience. Now I'm dancing through life in all of my green glory, looking like I'm some character out of the magical world of Oz. And you can see I've even created a space in my home that looks very much like I could be in the Emerald City. And even though now I've become the sort of wizard of my own little Emerald City and land of Oz, anybody, witches, wizards, munchkins, or anyone else wanting to create a better world is welcome in my little magical space that I've created. The Wizard of Oz books were really my gateway drug to discovering more books on fantasy like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and then many other books later on, and even comic books and science fiction that really helped me literally survive my adolescence when it was the worst time in my life and I needed worlds to escape to survive. And The Wizard of Oz was that for generations even older than mine. There were so many people that dreamed of somewhere over the rainbow, with Judy Garland being kind of a gay icon for all of history. So now, to make everything depressing, I'm going to tell you a little story that involves a real-life witch. Would you believe that no, it wasn't Elphaba, it wasn't Galinda, this is a witch, but my witch's name was Carol. So, say, how could this be a witch? Okay, you could say it's technically a wicked stepmother. And when people say wicked stepmother, they just think, oh, everybody thinks their stepparents are bad or whatever like that. I have a stepdad, he's not wicked, you know. Well, sometimes political decisions. Counseling for anti-LGBT legislation in Utah could be considered. When I was a teenager, I literally had a wicked stepmother that I would call a witch. You tell me what you think when you hear what she did. So we went off to this summer camp for 2 weeks, Camp Arbolado, YMCA in California, for 2 weeks. And my dad had been falling in love with this woman, Carol, who he married. And when we were at camp, they decided to pick up everything and move to her place in Venice Beach, California, which at the time was more dangerous and not as gentrified as it is today. So we went to her house when we got back from camp, and they had moved all of our stuff. But not all of our stuff, because they threw out so many of our toys and Transformers and Lego and everything like that. We were like coming back from our summer camp, Land of Oz, little munchkins in the forest and the poppies and everything like that. And when we get back and we're like, we ain't in Kansas anymore, Toto, Toto, our dog. We're like, where's our dog? And my dad said, oh, because we were by the beach. Well, you know, Carol didn't want sand fleas. I'm like, I didn't know what sand fleas were, but I was like, what does that mean? So let's call our dog Toto. Well, they put Toto to sleep. I'm like, what? Like, our dog was inconvenient? So our wicked stepmother just had our dog put to sleep because it was inconvenient. And that was a wonderful start to my teenage years with my wicked stepmother who made us live in the garage. But that's a story for another day. So there are sometimes real witches in the world, and I got to live with one. I'm going to leave you with that. And hopefully you can have more positive experiences and when you go and see the movie Wicked. But I just wanted to put that out there on the internet because Karma's a bitch and my stepmother was a witch. And I live by the beach now too. So things will work out even in your hard times. Take that suffering, push through it, and grow and learn to fly with butterflies. Thank you for listening to my Oz-related story time, including the Wicked Witch of the West Coast, and I'll see you in the next one. How was that for some Wicked Witch of the West realness and my own little Oz-related stories from my life? I hope that you have your own Oz-related experiences as you go and enjoy Wicked in the theaters, and that future generations will come to know the magic and mystery and wonderful land of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.